Hello, good afternoon. My name is Ülari Alamets. I'm a project manager for Central Baltic program, working on field of business development. I welcome all you, and I see people are still coming in to the Central Baltic 2021-27 applicant seminar, or seminars, perhaps I should say. And to start, I would like to say that this time we are doing it in a different format. We can even say that this week will be full of Central Baltic 21-27 applicant seminars or sessions. It's caused by corona pandemic, certainly, but also we find that the new format to present the new Central Baltic program to all potential project partners offers better opportunities to choose which parts of a program are more relevant to you to participate. And because of that, we have built up our week in a way, as you can see on the slide. So we start today, and today's session objective is to give overall overview of the main intervention themes of the Central Baltic new program. For that, I will start the main principles, but I will go through all program objectives, which are the intervention logic, and that is meant to all of you to understand which parts of the following sessions are most relevant for you. So in the next 2 days, tomorrow and day after tomorrow, we will go through all program objectives, 7 of those, and all our new program team, and myself, colleagues Samu, Laura, and Normans will present. And after going through with 2 following days all program objectives, we are going to devote the last day, the Friday, to the aspects which are related to how to build up the strong partnership, develop the work plan, and also how to draft the budget. And we would end with the perhaps the conclusions and the most important aspects to take into account while developing your project idea. And this leads us to the today's topic, which is more or less described in the heading. I would like to go through the project intervention logic and also touch some aspects related to general principles and also some practical issues. We would like to propose that for questions we use a chat function. I will be supported by my colleagues who will follow the chat, and we thought to split the session to 3 parts and take the questions after each 3 parts. And I can already foresee the first question coming related to slides availability. We have agreed that slides of all applicant seminar sessions will be made available during next week. So this is for start. And just to go through or start with objectives, goals for a seminar. I will describe all intervention teams. We name them this time as a program objectives. And based on that information, hopefully, as I already said, you will get better understanding which parts of the program are most relevant for your project ideas, and that helps you to choose which following sessions of the week to attend. Yes, the content-wise, first of all, I will start with general basics and principles of the program, and thereafter walk through all the program objectives, describe them rather in general terms, and all those program objectives will be then described and discussed in tomorrow's and day after tomorrow's sessions by myself and my colleagues. And then at the end, I would also touch the aspects how the program intervention logic is linked to the projects, and provide some practical information with the dates to keep in mind while moving towards preparing the project. So to start with the basics, well, perhaps even before the basics, it's also relevant to say the disclaimer that right now the program for the 21-27 Central Baltic program as a program document has been approved by all member states and Åland, and it is in the process of submission to European Commission. We have had the informal communication during the program preparation with European Commission, but it is still possible that we will receive some feedback, comments, proposals, recommendations from a Commission, and that may cause some changes. Hopefully those changes will not be the major, and everything we communicate and tell to you during this week will still to large extent be in place after that procedure. And yes, in regard of program basics, to keep in mind, to start with the funds available, what can be invested into the projects. 118 million euros have been allocated by member states to Central Baltic 21-27 program. It is approximately same amount of funds as we have had also available for investments in Central Baltic 2014-2020 program. We are going to have the support rate of ERDF for all countries and regions as 80%, meaning that the project partners' own financing should be 20%, and that is different from the current or a previous program where we had a different rates to Finland, Sweden, Åland regions, and to Estonia and Latvia. So now 80% support, 20% own financing from project partners is for all. We are going to have a regular projects where we are going to use a two-step approach for applying, and for a new period, the maximum of 4 million euros per project has been set, and also 2 million euros per partner budget. Small projects which will be implemented via one-step approach, specifically for program objective 7, with a maximum amount of total funding of 213,550 euros, and with a duration of 1.5 years or 18 months. Still, the basic thing about the partnership is that there should be the two partners from at least two member states in place to form eligible partnership. And we're going to use the lead partner principle as it is a rule for cross-border cooperation programs in general. And in regard to program area is to remain same if you compare to also previous program. So there are the 8 regions from Sweden and Finland, full territory of Estonia, and all regions of Latvia, with exception of Latgale, and Åland Islands as a program region. To characterize the region, it is now approximately populated by 11 million people. So it is relatively large. And if you also think and bring comparison to a potential investment budget, as it was shown in the previous slide, approximately 180 million euros over the period of 7 years. So this is not really very huge amount of funds available for investment. And that is also one reason why we have tried to be focused and really specific about identifying those areas where program intends to intervene and bring to life changes. So that brings us to the principles. So we have tried to actually continue principles which we already applied in the current Central Baltic 2014-20 period program, to be focused, to be result-oriented, to be also measurable, to emphasize and address strongly the cross-border value added, and emphasize and continue our work in regards to simplifications and cost efficiency. So first, the result orientation, how we understand that and how it works in a Central Baltic new program. Very much similarly as we used to have it. So basically we say that we ought to achieve changes together via cross-border partnerships, and those changes we want to achieve together are described by program objective, result indicator, and result indicator's target value together. So those 3 things work together always. So program objective is described by result indicator and its target value. And for us as a program, having had those program objectives described with result indicators and target values, the projects which will be chosen and implemented are only means to achieve those program results. So, and that leads to the logical conclusion that our best way to achieve that is to make sure that we're able of choosing the best projects in regard of impact and potential contribution to the program results, and that also leads to the conclusion or logical outcome that we see that one project can realistically contribute and target one program objective. Cross-border value added is very important for us, and we have tried to illustrate this cross-border value added with the stairs or ladder approach. So we are saying that we feel that our region and our regional players, organizations are ready to use and exploit existing networks and good contacts, and not to limit the cross-border cooperation projects to creation of networks or exchanging experience, but using that potential, using those networks, platforms, and trust among organizations, really solving concrete problems together, and working to achieve results together. And this also includes cross-border value-added relevant aspects related to joint cross-border criteria, like making sure that the projects are really prepared together in joint action. The partnerships are planned and made as balanced. Activity plans and also resources or budgets are planned in a balanced way. In addition to that, throughout the intervention logic, you will see, I will go through and show, in case of all program objectives, that we are using the logic where for all program objectives, indicative actions are defined, and those indicative actions are indeed indicative. And the projects should really find the best possible mix or best combination of those indicative actions, or adding something which may be relevant for the best mix to combine those indicative action in the right sequence. So it would be the complex set of activities to achieve results. In regard the intervention logic element, partnership formation, the most important thing to emphasize is that partners should be relevant for the specific program objectives, achievement of the results. In most cases, for most program objectives, a partner should be non-commercial for general purpose organizations. But for two program objectives, which will be explained in detail later, also the private companies may be, if justified, the partner organizations. And we are looking forward also for clear descriptions and the identifications of joint cross-border elements in each activity plan. So those are the horizontal relevant principles which are applied throughout all program objectives, and in a slides we will go through just in a minute. You will encounter those in all of those. And last but not least, perhaps about those general principles, I would like also to mention the simplification and cost efficiency. We would continue, as already said, with two-step approach for regular projects to allow to make sure first that there is really match between the project idea and program objectives, and avoid unnecessary technical work in elaborating all parts of the project before there is a certainty that really the project potentially contributes to the program results. What is new, or what will be more in a new program, is the wider use of simplified cost options, SCOs, different unit costs, lump sums. We emphasize and continue prioritize the customer orientation. It is backed by activities like using the project idea form and giving the project ideas feedback. Using customer feedback surveys, we are planning also to have a simplification or cost-saving tool to replace, but also to support the project websites creation or keeping that information acute and in centrally managed system. And yes, we hope to be able of working in a new program with improved electronic monitoring system, which is in the development phase right now. And this this ends the first section of the principles we are applying throughout the intervention logic and the new program. And maybe now it's good moment to look at chat, and if there are any questions, it would be right time to address those before moving to the intervention logic.
Ülari, I can tell you that we already have a few questions and people feel very free to write more. I will start with the first ones. So there was firstly a question about the two-partner rule. Does this apply also to small projects, was the question.
Yes.
That's a clear answer. Thank you. And what is the maximum length of regular projects?
We are not saying we haven't determined the maximum length. We say that regular projects in average or usually last 2-3 years, but it has to be justified, and it has to be justified, of course, with specific program objectives, results, and it may be also related to specific target groups and specific fields of intervention. But I would say that in average 2-3 years, based on our experience, no upper limit, but certainly projects can't last longer than program period. So
I hope that is clear. Thank you very much. And then there's just checking the understanding that GEMS will replace the previous EMS. This is correct, right?
Yes.
Good. Then I think I have covered the questions that had come to the chat so far. Yeah.
So thank you. And then it's good time to move on with intervention logic. And one aspect in regard of intervention logic is just for a moment to revisit the Central Baltic 2014-20 program intervention logic, and here I have tried to also point out or circle around the themes which in one or another way have also continuation in the new program. And as many of you may know, we have been working with 11 specific objectives in the 2014-20 program period. Those 11 specific objectives were grouped to 4 priorities: competitive economy, sustainable use of common resources or environment, well-connected region or transport, and then skilled and socially inclusive region. Those specific objectives I have encircled with a red color are going to have, as I said, some continuation in one or another form. And I will mention those linkages while going through the new program objectives. And this is the new intervention picture so to say, where Central Baltic Program wants to bring through the cross-border cooperation those changes. The terminology has a little bit changed, and I think it is important to mention here that we will still have the priorities, which is the upper layer of boxes: innovative business development, improved environment and resource use, more accessible and inclusive labor market, and improved public services and solutions as Interreg-specific objective. But because of the fact that in a new program, we are going to have only 7 program objectives or more specific focus schemes, in most cases, in most communication and in most discussions we are using, especially towards you, potential project applicants and project owners, the program objectives, those 7 themes where we would like to bring the changes into life. And this is a most important layer and most important things to know and to understand into which program objective potentially or the project objective, project idea belongs. And to start, I will walk through, so to say, all program objectives briefly. All of those 7 will be elaborated in more detail and discussed, and more time also will be available for questions and examples and feedback in sessions tomorrow and day after tomorrow. Let's start this walking through or orienting tour through the 7 program objectives of the new Central Baltic Program. First, we will continue as a program our work in supporting the export attempts by small and medium-sized companies of the Central Baltic region. This is to address the rather classical challenge or problem of small and medium-sized companies in going to markets, and especially going to markets which are distant, and breaking those barriers and making the business in those markets. So this is the challenge we are targeting. We are looking for real economic impact in doing that. We are accepting, or we would like to work potentially with all relevant economic sectors. But the important aspect here is that we would like to work or prioritize the work with sectors or groups of companies where really the cooperation capacity and cooperation interest exists. So there should be some kind of organizing or some kind of experience on doing things together by the sector or some different other group of companies. And that's why also we say that the cluster-based approach is favored and recommended wherever possible. Those joint efforts by business development organizations should target the new markets, and new markets are defined as markets outside of European Union and European Free Trade Area. And one specific, hopefully interesting direction to work together is to work towards international organizations with joint offers from Central Baltic companies. This is a very much similar logic we have been working with in the Central Baltic 2014-20 program. Well, if to try to find something new or different, certainly the situation has changed around us. Now the eligible market is also, for example, United Kingdom, Great Britain. And we are not so much, even if we are saying that this cooperation capacity and cooperation experience is relevant among participating companies. As a cluster-based approach, we are not so much emphasizing the meta cluster building as such. Taking that challenge and this overall logic that we want professional business development organizations to work with small and medium-sized Central Baltic companies to take them to the new markets outside of European Union. To take would mean the result indicator that those companies who take part from a project activities really get to those markets. And that's why the result indicator is set as the companies with achieved sales on new markets. For that, certainly, there should be a certain number of companies, enterprises involved in project activities, potential partners who would take the responsibility to put together the activity plan and really lead this effort are seen as non-commercial organizations, relevant and capable for implementing these new market entries. And yes, indeed, the target group or participating companies are seen as established, innovative, mature, small and medium-sized companies from different sectors. And now remember the principle I emphasized also before the description of program objectives in regard of indicative joint actions. So this is the menu. This is not meant to be that one indicative action equals the project. So any project should use the suitable mix or a best combination of potential indicative actions to be combined in a right proportion, in a right sequence to achieve results that apply to target group participating companies. Then we have another focus or theme we would like to contribute in innovative business development, the broad area. It's related to new businesses. And if we were working in the Central Baltic 2014-20 period with the new companies, mainly as target groups, which were just the teams or not yet established companies with the aim to try to create joint Central Baltic companies, then now we have chosen and agreed the a bit different segment from the population of new companies. So we are looking for projects which would work with the new companies who are already established, who have proved their existence, who have potential to grow, who are ambitious, and we would like to achieve via the project's work the target as the scaling up certain number of participating companies, and this scaling up is defined as it can be that specific companies has raised investments, has established presence outside of the home market, or developed a business model, or expanded, for example, their key team. So this is the effort now. We would like projects to work inside of the new businesses segment. And that leads to the result we are targeting. We are looking for certain number of scaled up new growth companies, and for certainly getting those scaled up statuses, new companies, it would be logical that the output number or milestone towards that participating companies is somewhat larger as output indicator. And similar approach, working via the umbrella or sometimes also called intermediary organizations, not directly with the companies, which are non-commercial, which have competence and experience in doing the new business development, relevant for achieving for participating companies is scaled up statuses. And yes, the target group, new companies with scaling up challenges and ambition is relevant. And indicative actions logic same. This is a menu, and we are looking for a project which are putting together the best suitable mix of these actions in the right proportion and in the right sequence to achieve the results which are relevant, which are the certain number of scaled up companies. So next we have three themes or topics or intervention areas we would like to contribute to the environment or improved environment and resource use broad theme. And the first of those is related to circular economy. This is a new theme for our program. Somewhat it has been included also in work of some 2014-20 projects under the specific objectives, but as a team, as a complex team of circular economy, it is a new. It is prioritized, and we see it really as in a complex way. We would like to see the projects which will really contribute to the decreasing the use of virgin materials, decreasing the waste, and increasing the reuse of different materials. This complex approach means that that we are seeing that this change, circular economy change, can be services or products. They include full life cycle, like from design to the products and services development and use. Also, both consumers and producers sides, and this is really the complex definition. But our specific Central Baltic program niche, we see that we're trying to find the projects which are going to address and work these circular economy change, which are Central Baltic in scale, where the Central Baltic scale to intervene is logical, optimal, and justified. Yes, that is leading us to the results we are targeting. As already mentioned, we are looking for practical, realistically achievable, measurable things, but product and service cycles of change can achieve the reductions of virgin materials use, decrease in waste, and increase in reuse. So this is the three relevant aspects of the results we are trying to achieve. And here we see that the public and non-profit organizations are seen as the partner organizations, but the target group certainly can be rather broad, people communities, and also the business community included. Similar approach as to program objectives on business development to indicative actions. Also here, we are providing the indicative list or menu. Maybe just to point out that different opportunity what we are foreseeing here is the smaller scale investments. We see that in really achieving those relevant results, there is a potential need for smaller scale investments, and that is brought out in the indicative joint actions. But again, the good strong project would be the one which combines or finds a mix of indicative actions in a best way, optimal way, in a right proportion and in right sequence. The next program objective or theme we would like to contribute in the environment and better resource use is related to improved coastal and marine environment. This program objective is very much continuing the work we have been doing to improve the health of Baltic Sea in the Central Baltic 2014-20 program. We had slightly different name for this theme. It was a specific objective working with reduction of nutrients, toxins and hazardous substances inflows into the Baltic Sea. The content-wise or result-wise, the approach remains similar, but we maybe also in this particular program objective bring in more kind of broad and complex approach. We see the full catchment areas and agricultural sector and forestry and urban systems, and also the areas in sea and on land, both potentially as the target areas and ways of solving these inflows of nutrients, hazardous substances, toxins, and this program period also plastics are separately indicated as the relevant theme. And that is very much concluded into the result, what we are trying to achieve as a program based on the cumulative impact of all successfully implemented projects. It's a number of certain improved urban and agricultural load sources, or which are the reductions of inflows of then nutrients, hazardous substances, toxins, and plastics. And here, a bit different approach towards potential partners, public non-profit organizations, but also private companies where relevant and justified for achieving results are foreseen as a potential partners. And similar approach towards activity plan or indicative joint actions. Also under this program objective, small scale investments are foreseen as relevant for achieving results. And the strong good projects is understood as combining in the best possible way or having a mix of described indicative actions. So the third program objective under the environment and resource use is related to CO2 reductions. This program objective has also linkages and history and background to Central Baltic 2014-20 program. So you may know, or if you remember this intervention logic picture, we used to have the transport or better connected the Central Baltic region, and we were targeting and working with improving the transport nodes and corridors. but we were mainly targeting the improvements of transport flows, passenger flows and cargo flows. But we also emphasized the need not to achieve those improvements on expense of CO2 increases. Rather, we emphasized that CO2 emissions should also be reduced. In a new program, this program objective 5 is actually somehow taking the CO2 aspect as the first or most important aspect, and we are saying that we're going to work with transport systems and intermodal urban transport systems and transport nodes with the main objective and focus on reducing CO2 emissions. But yes, indeed, at the same time, there is no intention to make those transport nodes and urban systems less efficient. Just the priority or main result or impact we would like to achieve is related to CO2 emissions reductions. And is the area or where it should be targeted is transport nodes and different large and small urban transport systems. And this is leading to the result description. We're looking for a certain number of intermodal transport nodes and transport areas where those CO2 emissions reductions are achieved. And under this program objective, public non-profit organizations are seen as the partners, but also similarly to previous program objective, private companies were relevant as part of those transport nodes and intermodal urban systems in regard of achieving results can be the partners as well. A similar approach towards indicative actions, joint actions. Again, we're looking for best possible mix of these actions to be put into the right sequence and proportion as a project. And also small scale investments are potentially relevant under this program objective. So then next, to move on to improved employment opportunities on labor market. This program objective is now trying to take the comprehensive and broad view to labor market issues with really strong emphasis on less competitive groups and working with different segments of less competitive groups for improving their employment opportunities. And if to make the connection with Central Baltic 2014-20 program intervention logic, then we had some very specific teams we worked on. We worked with aligning the curricula of vocational education to make Central Baltic labor market more aligned. And we also worked with the entrepreneurship under the business development competitive economy. In this period, this program objective will not work anymore, this alignment of curriculums narrowly, but the work to support entrepreneurship will be included still in the scope. And as I said, yes, the improvement of employment opportunities of those specific segments of less competitive groups is a key here. But taking this broad or complex view of labor market, we see that all counterparts of labor market, employers organizations, employees organizations, trade unions, and the governments are all potentially relevant in that work and in the project partnerships. And here we are looking for actually three different types of results relevant. First of all, those number of people with increased competitiveness on labor market. And yes, then back to the previous slide, those people should be from the specifically identified, determined groups of less competitive people. We also look forward for results which are coming from employers' side. We're looking forward for projects and results which organizations, employers will bring us as applying the anti-discriminatory policies and making the employment opportunities more accessible for those less competitive groups of people. And yes, also the people with increased entrepreneurship as the bit separate branch of entrepreneurship development is included as a relevant result here. In regard of potential partners, similar approach to the previous program objectives. We're looking for relevant partners, not-for-profit, non-commercial organizations representing those earlier mentioned different counterparts or actors of the labor market. And yes, the less competitive groups are in broad sense defined, but what we want to emphasize and what colleagues elaborate further tomorrow and day after tomorrow is that each project has still to identify more specific target group and determine inside of those predetermined rather broad target group definitions. And indicative actions leading to activity plan, which brings results, a similar approach. We're looking for the best suitable mix of these actions combined in right proportion and sequence to the activity plan. And yes, last but not least, in new program, we are going to work with something which is new, which is improved public services and solutions for the citizens. Inside of this program objective, we would like to work with the teams which are not covered by the scope of previously described program objectives. We are looking for two different main aspects of intervention here. Those can be related to practical solutions and policy improvements and or to new or improved joint public services and digitalized public services. We emphasize also the participatory process as a part of creating or improving those public services and solutions. And based on that, so to say, two branches or directions of work inside of this program objective. Two types of results should be targeted by projects, and we would like to achieve on the program level. First of all, the practical solutions in regard of public services. And second, the new joint and digitalized public services as outcomes of a project. And this is the area of public sector organizations work, but public sector is understood on a broader sense, not only understood as the public sector administration organizations, but also the non-governmental organizations which belong to the scope of providing public services. And all levels of the public sector are potentially relevant, representing partners, local, regional, and national levels. And a similar approach towards activity plan or indicative actions. We are looking for projects which are combining in optimal way indicative actions into the complex activity plan to achieve target results. So this concludes walking through the 7 program objectives, 7 specific themes where Central Baltic 2021-27 program wants to bring to life changes, and those changes, as I described, are described in the intervention logic by the result indicators. So I think this is now again right moment if we have some questions in chat to look at those before moving to the last part of linking the program intervention logic to project and going through some relevant deadlines and practical aspects.
And we do again have very good questions in the chat. The first one is something that is certainly relevant for all of the program objectives. It is about the partners and partner activities. Should the partners in the projects have the same activities or different activities?
I think this is, yes, this is somehow, it should follow the principle where we see that actually all partners are jointly involved in the activity plan implementation. So I foresee that it's logical that activities are that are responsible of the activity or group of activities work package, but certainly most of activities, what I can imagine as a part of projects, should be in one or another way implemented by all participating partners. Rather, there should be the good justification if there are some separate activities which are not joint in nature, and yes, that is, I think, main principle.
Then there was a practical question about when projects can start. It started about a question about small projects, but also about regular projects. Do you want to take?
Yes, the earliest time projects can technically start from a moment monitoring committee has made the financing decision on the projects.
And you will tell about the timetable later on, even today, right?
Yes, indicative timetable.
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
So I think these questions will get an answer on the slides and telling them. Then we have a question concerning the improvement of public services. Do the project activities need to concern public services itself or possible supplementary services for an existing public service? So
well, I'm not sure this is very clear. I think that can be discussed specifically day after tomorrow under the program objective 7 session. But as I emphasized, we actually take the broader view of the public sector. But yes, those public services still should be our solutions directed to people or organizations, or not in a way that if the public sector has some kind of services they are buying in. So those services still have to be directed towards the people, citizens, organizations. So such kind of improvements we are looking as a principle.
And indeed, it is very true that, I mean, Ülari gave kind of a snapshot or a superficial look into the different program objectives, and then indeed over the coming days we will spend much more time on each of these. So So keep that question also reserved for the later session. But there are more questions, Ülari. So there's one also very good about where the person states, so one project has to contribute to one program objective, and this is correct. Can one organization submit several projects if they are dealing with different program objectives?
Yes, I think there is no technical restriction to that, but what we certainly look at is the organization's experience, capacity, competence, and it relates also. Well, it depends on the organization. Then this organization should really have these relevant competence and sometimes also statutory statutory aim or objective to justify the action in different fields. But that is theoretically possible, and there is no restriction. What is certainly important, we ask questions and we look into the organization's capacity to do in parallel more than one project.
And there's a technical question about the partnership. Is it possible to have more partners from the same country in one project? So for example, 2 from Finland and 2 from Estonia.
Yes, for sure. What we strongly emphasize, well, the relevance principle, of course, the project partnership should include the organizations which are really relevant for implementing the activity plan and achieving results. And we don't really recommend or want very large partnerships. We are saying in the program manual that partnerships up to 10 partners are in our program rather relevant in most cases. And if more partners, then it has to be really very well justified. So those principles apply, but as example was brought, 2 partners from 2 countries or 2 partners from 3 countries can be relevant and will be acceptable for sure.
I have 2 questions left at this moment. The first one is, can a project under program objective 6 be targeted to youngsters and students with a focus on entrepreneurship skills?
In general, why not? But I think it will be elaborated day after tomorrow, more specifically, certainly in the session dealing with program objective 6.
Yes, and we will have questions and answers there also. So definitely good to come back to these in more detail then. And then a technical question about the small scale investments that you mentioned under some of the program objectives. Are there any measurable limitations on what is a small scale investment?
No, there are not, but maybe just indication would be that we don't, based on the kind of set limits to the partner budget and project overall budget, so 2 million euros, 4 million euros, and the also wording you use, smaller scale or small investments, we rather see those investments as equipment type. Yes, they can be some construction work, some fixed equipment things, but not rather large scale investments. I would speculate. I think it's good to get back to those questions also tomorrow, but I would speculate that those smaller scale investments can't be larger than maybe in a scale of 100, 200,000 euros, not more.
Then for the time being, no further questions. I hope I got all of them from the chat.
Okay, then maybe it's time to move on to the last part of today's session. So I just wanted to link once again the program cycle to the project cycle, and to the principle I emphasized also at the beginning, that if a program has set certain objectives and made those measurable, and we really want to achieve those, then the only way to achieve those are try to find the projects which are bringing as a cumulative effect to us those results. And that's why linking the program cycle to the project cycle is absolutely relevant. So in our logic or understanding, the program is not just the framework to define broad boundaries and then to look and see what comes out, but we really want, we need for achieving the program level results, the practical, measurable, tangible contribution from the selected projects which will be successfully implemented. And for that we're emphasizing the logic also, how to start thinking your project intervention logic through. So starting from, there should be some need or relevance, of course, for you as a potential partner, challenge to address or opportunity to exploit. And then it is our most important recommendation to start really making sure that the scope of the project or your project potential results impact contributes to one or another program objectives results on Central Baltic program level, and thereafter moving to elaborating or finding the suitable plan and implementing that plan and contributing to the program objectives and results. And what we emphasize is actually that this did I change the view? So, no. We emphasize that this program connection should really be made using the program result indicators and the program output indicators, which are different program objective by program objective, and really constructing the project's system of indicators, choosing the work plan content as the best possible activities, and also the budget as resources to implement those activities. So this is the coherence issue, that those different elements of the project should be in place, coherent, to realistically lead to those program level indicators, outputs or results indicators contributions. And that brings us to the very important phase, at least, or moment of truth moment for program implementation. This is assessment of the projects, which is to assess first of all very much the thing I emphasized, that whether the project actually has potential to contribute to the program level results. But it starts with technical admissibility check, as it has been also in the past, and we are going to use the strategic and operational assessment criterions. And while doing the two-step approach, then the first step for regular project is strategic assessment, and that is the phase or step we want to really make sure that the project logic and set targets and results and partnership put together is potentially bringing results the program is targeting, and thereafter entering into the second phase and elaborating a project fully in detail to be implementable. We are going to use the tandem assessments. So we have done it by 2 assessors, and we are proposing for a new program the total scores for the projects, and also the proposal is to use a minimum score threshold. And it is likely that that there are going to be conditions by the projects after the selection is made. That takes us to the activities and the web actions deadlines. Actually, there are several events in addition to this week, full of Central Baltic, which will be organized by Joint Secretariat and also our good partners in all countries and all national contact points. We are now fully ready and devoted as a team to receive your project idea descriptions. Project idea form is available on our website. So please use that opportunity, describe your project idea based on that form and send it to us. And we will give you the written feedback, or where relevant, we agree also the perhaps nowadays online meeting or discussion feedback verbally. First call will open on the 10th of February. That would mean that the new electronic monitoring system JEMS will be also open for entering the project information application. And the first call will close the 31st of March 2022. We foresee indicative monitoring committee decisions on selection of project in June 2022, and for regular projects, the second step submission indicative time would be somewhere in the third quarter of 2022. And then, yes, start of the project activities, again, indicative for a small projects. For a small projects, it would be realistically third quarter of 2022, and for a regular projects, first quarter 2023. Yes, so that's what we know now. And I think now it's also good time if there are any questions about those practical things and activities and deadlines which were presented.
Yes, thank you. I think the questions that were about the possible start date of projects, I think you answered them. If the people who posted the questions feel differently, then please maybe come back to this, but I think you did. Then there was a question about the assessment of the project ideas. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on who will evaluate and assess the project ideas and how will this happen? And there was also a specific question, will there be experts per different fields doing the assessment?
The feedback to project ideas based on the project idea form will be given by our project managers, who are all listed here. Well, of course, we discuss also where relevant the feedback we are giving as a team, and all of us will actually be with you tomorrow and day after tomorrow while explaining and discussing the program objectives in more detail. If to speak about the first step assessment, then again, most likely we will have the project managers, at least two of us project managers, assessing and doing the tandem assessment of the first step applications. Where relevant, additional resources, depending on the number of applications, of course, may be brought in by by managing authority, and I think Merike can add to that if needed.
Maybe the one addition I would, or clarification maybe I would make, is that because there was the question about whether there are thematic experts reading the applications. Yes, we have gathered, or we have put together our team here in the Secretariat so that we do have thematic expertise, but I would say that a better thing to do when you write the application is to write it to someone who's absolutely not an expert in the field, because there will also be colleagues who are not, who will be reading the applications, and it is better not to use very, let's say, terminology jargon, but to really explain the idea as you would to someone who is not an expert in the field. Then maybe one comment to the participants. Our colleague just has put up the project idea form, which you can use, or the link in the chat to the project idea form, which you can use to submit your project ideas for consultations. And then also she put up a link to our website where we have all the information on our website. There was a question which actually, if Ülari, you don't mind, I will answer. The question was, will there be approximately one call per year? Similar to that, I think, yes, but maybe new piece of information is that already now I believe you will find a call plan on our website, and that is something that we will keep up to date, and it will be checked regularly. So already now you see years ahead into the future an idea of when calls might be, and then of course that information is updated regularly, and Kersti just updated the link to that call calendar in the chat. But then, Ülari, to you a question. There was a question, what is the difference between a small and a regular project? If you elaborate on that a bit.
Yes, small projects are defined actually by the total amount, as it was shown. It was some not very roundish number this period, which is 213,550 euros as a total, and with a duration of maximum 18 months. And we see realistically that those small projects are relevant mainly for program objective 7, one direction or branch. And that's, yes, that's the area which will be elaborated by a colleague day after tomorrow in more detail. And the regular projects, yes, regular projects, so to say, start from then 213,551 and up to the maximum set ceiling of 4 million euros per project.
Then there was a question which is very relevant for the time being. It is, how will the feedback to project ideas happen, and in which timeline?
Project ideas feedback we will give to you in written. Well, we do it chronologically as it arrives, and this is a priority certain. We don't have any fixed or regulated deadlines. So I would, well, I can't tell you the clear number of days, but this is our priority actually in coming weeks and in also 2.5 months actually to work with you and give the feedback to project ideas. So it will be as soon as possible. In order of arrival of project ideas, we will write you back and you will receive that. But for first step, we ask from you the information about what is your idea, what you are planning, and please fill in the project idea form.
Then a very good clarifying question about the timetable. So the question is that you say that small projects could start in the third quarter of next year, but could they also start later? So let's say in maybe November next year.
Yes, I would think so.
I would also think so. Then, no, this question, I think. Yes, I think, but I think there was a correction to that question in the chat, but I think we covered it. Okay. Actually, I think the question is, could they start 1 year later? And that, I think, maybe would be already a little bit unusual.
It would need very, very, very good justification, or then I think it has to be dealt case by case. But exactly, I don't think we have thought that there will be realistically projects which can't start before, let's say, 12 months passing.
And then I don't see further questions, I hope. Again, I didn't miss any, but if so, please write again.
So then, yes, it would be, I think, good to get to that. Almost last slide, get in touch with us. Here are our contacts. We will repeat, of course, those contacts in coming days, sessions, which will deal specifically with all program objectives in more detail. So we will have time for discussing and going through more specific details and examples where possible. And I also ask you, I hope that colleague Kersti has also put up in the chat the feedback we would like to receive and we will use for improving our seminars and activities. Your feedback to the event, and that is very much all we had planned, and I was intending to tell you and discuss today. And if there are no more immediate questions or reflections, then I think we are finished for today, just in time. Well, I see. Well, I think it would be good to end with this question and answer once again that we have agreed that all slides of this week's sessions will be made available during next week. So you will find those going to our website, centralbaltic.eu, and in the section of events, and there you can find applicant seminars. So thank you so much, and see you, many or most of you, in coming sessions throughout this week.